Okay, hello YouTube. Today I want to talk about the right attitude that you need to have if you want to get better at chess, and also the attitude that you can have that'll stop you from getting better at chess. So if you like content like this and you want to see more of it, please hit that subscribe button, click the notification icon. So this first game that I'm going to show you is an excerpt from a game that I played when I was a young player coming up. I was rated like 1700 or 1800, I don't remember exactly which. And I was playing against a guy named Omafuma Akijibe, who was playing the black pieces, and he was rated over 2100 at the time. I was playing the white pieces, and it was my move here, and pause the video and see if you can find what I did. I played knight to e7 check, king h8, and I proceeded with rook h6 mate. So I found that cute little mate in two. Well, anyways, I won that game, which was good because I was, of course, happy that I won. And then two people came up to me after the game, and I didn't really think about it until, much after the game or years later or months later, until a friend of mine pointed it out. And they came up to me and they were laughing and they were just amazed that some 1700 had beaten a 2100. And they asked to see the game. So I showed them the game and they were still laughing. They were like, "Oh my god, he fell for that. He fell for that mate in two." And I was like, "What do you mean? Fall for the mate in two?" I was like, it was a complex position, out of the opening, and then maybe I made one little mistake in the opening, and what black had a very very slight edge, and then black made kind of a tactical error. I took advantage of it, and we ended up with a complex position, and it ended here, and it ended in mate in two. I don't think that Black played particularly poorly, other than his one mistake. And of course, I played the game relatively well, but I didn't play the opening well. I certainly could have improved a little bit on the opening because I shouldn't be slightly worse after 10 moves. But I was slightly worse after 10 moves, but, I was winning by like, move 25, because my opponent had made, a tactical mistake when things kind of got crazy in the center. And so anyway, so that's how I looked at the game, and I just found it weird. These two guys, they were just laughing. They just assumed that there was some major blunder, and one side won, one side lost. And this is what bothered me about it years later, and it still bothers me today. At no point did they ask any questions about the chess. It was just, oh my god, this is so funny, this is so amazing, this is hilarious. And at no point was like, oh, why did you play there? Why did you play there? Why did he play there? Why didn't he attack the center? Why didn't he exchange like that? Why didn't he do this? There were no chess questions. And that's the thing, is people that approach the game like that, where it's just about the winning and losing, and it's not about the chess, where it's just about the result, it's just about the rating, they don't get better. And that is what prevents people from getting better, is where it's just about the rating, it's just about the result, it's just about the rating difference. There were no chess questions when they asked me about this game. And that really bothered me, and it still bothers me to this day. I don't think either one of those players ever did, get much better at chess, but I certainly did. A couple years later, I was higher rated than Omafuma. This result didn't look so weird anymore. Nobody cared about it at that point. It was like, okay, he lost to Robert Plunkett. He lost to a guy that became a master, a couple years after this game. So it wasn't something that people really, looked at as something very strange a few years later. But more importantly, the people that focus on the chess are the people that get better. So let me give another example of that. My very first win against a master. So this was a huge win for me in terms of my psychological. It's huge. When you get your first win against a master, it's a huge deal. Okay, it gives you the confidence to play at that level, to not accept draws and keep pushing yourself to win more games against players of that caliber. So anyways, I was playing the white pieces. My opponent was Roger Rudolph. This game was played, I think, all the way back in like 1996, so a long time ago. It was played in the Minnesota Open. I was playing white. It starts out e4. It was an Alekhine's defense. I play e5, knight d5. I play this kind of sideline. I play bishop c4, e6, takes, d4, d6, f4. c5, knight f3, bishop g4, I castle, knight c6, rook e1, and then this blunder is made by black. Black plays d captures e5, and then I respond very correctly. I take advantage of this huge blunder. I play knight takes e5, bishop d1, knight c6 check, bishop d8, knight d8, rook d8, rook d1. I'm up a whole piece here. C takes d4, b3, and then eventually I harvest the pawn. Now, my very first win against a master back in 1996, keep in mind, I was rated like 1400 when I played this game. So, the rating difference is huge. The rating difference is like 800 points. Just this absolutely insane rating difference. And it's my very first one against a master, and I'm of course overjoyed. But the response that I got from the people around me back then was the absolute correct response. They said, "Yeah, you won the game, and that's great. It's so awesome that you got your first one against a master. But the game was kind of silly, wasn't it?" That was the response I got. The game was kind of silly, wasn't it? And I was like, "Yeah." Like, yeah, it was kind of silly. Because in this case, I mean, unlike my game against, Omofuma, where it wasn't a single blunder that lost the game. In this case, it was really just a single blunder that lost the game. Black made a single blunder that lost the game. And okay, I had enough technique to win the game after it. And I was really happy, really excited about it. But at the same time, the game itself was kind of silly. So I needed to actually learn to play the opening differently because the opening was bad. I needed to play the white pieces differently. I didn't just keep playing this over and over again with white, thinking that this was some great, spectacular thing to do. And as a matter of fact, Roger Rudolph was very unaffected by the result of this game, even though he lost this game. He said the same thing to himself. I'm sure he said, "Oh well, this was just kind of silly." And he went on to win the tournament. He ended up with a score of 4 out of 5. He beat like some really high level masters in the tournament, and he went on to win the tournament. And of course, at 1400, I did not go on to win that particular tournament. But I did play another game in that tournament that I think was probably the most important game of my chess career. So the game that I played in that the other game that I played in that tournament was a game that I played against a chess expert named Don Aldrich. And we ended up in this position. And of course, this is after I'd beaten Roger Rudolph, so I already have this amazing confidence. Hey, I can beat masters. I beat a master. What's the big deal about maybe beating an expert? So I'm playing the black pieces against Don Aldrich, who's a chess expert. He's rated over 2,000, and I have the black pieces, and I'm trying to push this pawn from b3 down to b2, b1 equals queen. I'm trying to win the game. And about 15 moves prior, maybe, he'd offered me a draw, and I declined. And I'd started just pressing. I'm just like, I'm going to press. I'm going to play for a win. I want to play for a win. And I got to this position, and it's check, and I tried to win the game for maybe another 10 moves after this. Could not figure out how to push that pawn any further down the board. Couldn't figure out how to get out of the checks. Eventually agreed to the draw because I wasn't making progress, and then my opponent, Don Aldrich, he got very upset at me, and he said, well, I'm the higher rated player. When I offered the draw, you should have taken it. It was rude of you to decline the draw. And then all these chess masters descended on the game. I'll never forget it. All these chess masters descended on the game and said, no, he had every right to play for a win. And they just defended my right to play for a win. They said he's up a pawn. He has every right to play for a win. And not only that, it's not a draw. It's a win for black. And I did not know that at the time. And at that point, we started talking about the chess. All these masters started showing me about this position. We started talking about, the danger zone for the king. Like right now, the white's king is in the danger zone. Over here is considered the danger zone. Like in the corner or in front of the pawn are considered the two safest zones for the white king. I didn't know that. And then, my queen is centralized, which is the ideal position for my queen. So if your queen is centralized and the king is in the danger zone, these positions are supposed to be wins. And if the king is either far away from the pawn or in front of the pawn, those positions are a little bit more dicey, and some of those positions are draws. And it's almost always a draw when the king's in front, and some of the positions are draws if the king is really far away from the pawn, and some of them are wins. So that's kind of the rule. But the point is we talked a lot about the chess. I learned a lot about the chess. I learned a lot about endgames. I went home. I looked up these positions in Yuri Averbach's book. People sent me a table-based analysis of these positions. I looked at the table bases, and I learned from that. And I learned a ton about queen and pawn endgames. And that is how you get better at chess. You don't focus on the result. Oh, this was a draw against a 2,000 player. What a spectacular result. You focus on the chess. You focus on what can I learn about this? How can I get better? And that's how you really get better at chess. So I'm going to give one more example of that where I feel like a player, really had a disservice done to her in a game that I played against a young up-and-coming junior. So I was playing the black pieces, and the person playing white was a player named Becky Hong. This was played back in the North American Open back in 2007. So the game starts. It was a e4, c5. It's a dragon variation. She just hangs back, plays a classical. I play the kind of well-known equalizing maneuver with d5. A couple of exchanges happen, c3, and then this highly questionable move b4, allowing queen a3. Now it should just be advantage black. Bishop d4, rook d8, queen c2. I gain this tempo. I exchange queens. I exchange on d4 because this, in the end, this nets a whole pawn. So I net this pawn. Bishop to f3, rook a2. I dominate the 7th. A few more moves get made. A couple of exchanges get made. And now I make arguably the only mistake I made the entire game. I exchanged rooks. I played rook to b1. Probably king f6, and I can just keep trying to press for a win with black. Although it's not clear that black has enough to win from here. Even this position might still just be a draw, even though blacks have a clean pawn. The pawns are on the same side of the board, and it's actually really difficult to make progress. So I played rook b1 check, and then I tried to make progress from here, but as it turns out, it's laughably difficult to make progress when pawns are on the same side of the board, and all of your pawns aren't even on the right color. I don't have a single target to really go after. But I gave it a college try, and then just eventually everything got exchanged, and we got just to raw king versus king, and we agreed to a draw. So let's talk about the chess. Like, what happened? Like, if we just talk about the chess, like, what happened in this game? Well, black equalized fairly quickly. White made a couple of mistakes, which allowed black to win a pawn. Black had a major advantage at one point, and then black simplified into an endgame where he was up a pawn but was no longer able to win. White made several mistakes in the game. Black made one. Black played rook to b1 check, exchanged that pair of rooks, and that made it very difficult to play for a win after that, and of course the game inevitably ended in a draw. And that's how you should talk about that game. That's what happened. White didn't play particularly well. Black didn't play particularly poorly. So I did not play that game particularly poorly. I made one mistake and failed to win. White, on the other hand, made several mistakes. The opening was kind of questionable. B4 was, of course, very questionable. And that's just how we should have talked about the game. Instead, what I ran into was the exact same thing that happened to me when I beat Omofuma, where they're heaping all of this praise. They're assuming some major blunder happened. They think it's absolutely amazing because at the time Becky Hong was rated 1700. I was rated over 2200. I was a master. She was rated 1700. And it's just all this praise got heaped on her. Oh my God, this is such a wonderful result for you. This is amazing that you could get a draw against a master. And nobody talked about the chess. And of course that's the only thing that matters. It's just the chess. Let's just talk about the chess. Let's not talk about the result. And I think it hurt her as a player, because I think when you're a young player and you're coming up, people should expect you to get good results. The expectation should have been that she should have been drawing masters or winning against masters. They should have given that to her as a given. She was a young junior player that was up and coming. They needed to give her the benefit of the doubt that she had the ability to beat masters and grandmasters, instead of heaping tons of praise upon her as if this was some rare occurrence that was just not supposed to happen. And I felt like that really hurt her as a player. It hurt her confidence as a player, because she played an okay game here. She didn't play a great game, and if that's how it should have been approached. And when I was a younger player, that's how it was approached for me. When I had my win against Roger Rudolph, you won the game, but it was kind of silly, right? Sometimes people need to say that, and then we need to talk about the chess. And that's the main thing, is if you want to get better at chess, don't focus on the result. Don't focus on the rating. Don't focus on the rating difference. Don't laugh about the blunders. Focus on the chess. And if you focus on the chess and you focus on the positions and you focus on getting better and you forget about all of that other stuff and you just give yourself the confidence, give yourself the default. I'm supposed to win against strong players. I'm supposed to. If I play well, I'm supposed to win against strong players. Give that as your default. If I play well, I'm supposed to win. If they play poorly, they're supposed to lose. That's the default. And just focus on the chess. And those are the people that get better. The people that focus on the chess and focus on the positions and focus on the learning and focus on the process and focus on the games, those are the people that get better. The people that focus on the rating and the result, those people never get better at chess because they're not doing the work that they need to do to get better at the game of chess. And that's what I want to get across in this video, talking about the right attitude to have to get better at chess and how you need to approach chess to be a strong player. And I hope I got that point across. Maybe I was a little wordy, but I hope that you learned something new about chess from my experiences, and I hope you can use this to get better at chess in your own games. Thank you very much for watching.